This is the Richard Brooke Podcast. Our guest today is Jonny Pardoe, author, speaker, and the host of two globally ranked podcasts, the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset Podcast and the Men's Mental Health Podcast, which together have reached millions of listeners.
What is the big chronic epidemic of self-esteem issues for young men?
Sometimes you can, even though we're told to talk, that's been going around, reach out, men. I think, actually sometimes if you reach out to the wrong people, that can actually be more damaging than good.
Jonny's mission is to empower men to build confidence from within, to speak openly about mental health, and to break free from the old man up culture. He's lived the journey himself. He's asked the questions, and he's realized that every struggle he faces can be turned into a lesson not just for him, but for anyone who's listening. In today's conversation, they dive into the philosophy that the mind follows the body, that self-esteem must be cultivated from the inside out, and how emotional openness is becoming a new definition of strength.
Have you used or taught people to use AI like chat to design affirmations and any of this work? Have you tried that yet?
One thing I always remind myself with AI though is, and I think it's a really important message, is that it can assist you to think things through. It can assist you to do things, but it's not your heart, it's not you. So always come back to that.
This is not just about men's mental health. It's about what it really means to evolve as a human, to trust yourself, and to build a life that's strong and authentic. So let's get into it.
Richard Bliss Brooke here. We are live.
We sit here today with none other than
Mark Victor Hansen.
Bob Proctor,
This is Kendra Hall.
Tanya Stringer,
Jeff Canfield. Whit Jones.
James Clear,
Les Brown.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Richard Brooke Podcast. And I have got an extraordinary guest today, somebody I'm looking forward to doing a deep dive with, Jonny Pardoe from Bristol, United Kingdom. He's got a couple of really incredible podcasts on men's mental health, and that's what we're going to be diving into. Welcome to the podcast, Jonny.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you having me on today, and I'm excited to chat with you as well. And see where this conversation goes. I'm loving all the books in the background as well.
I've read all of them 4 times.
Amazing.
Yeah.
40 times, yeah.
Well, tell us a story, Jonny. Who are you and where'd you come from and how did you arrive in being an expert in this subject or at least passionate about it? What's your story?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a little bit about me. I wouldn't use the word expert by any means on the men's mental health. I'm just very much passionate, the second word you gave there, about the subject. For me, I started a podcast a few years ago called the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset. It's been very fortunate to do very, very well. I feel very privileged, very grateful for that. Started it at the end of 2019. And really the drive behind that was I was really struggling with lots of self-esteem and confidence issues through my life. Now, the confidence, I would kind of be the kind of guy who would push through things and then gain a bit more confidence. But actually, my own relationship with myself was shocking, really, really bad. I hated myself. And I was that very cool on the surface. And from doing a lot of work on myself, I decided to start talking about it on the podcast. And actually, lots of people grew to it. I think we were going through a period of COVID where people were self-isolated. So there's all that. I've actually got to sit in myself and my feelings and see what's coming up, which I perceive as a very challenging thing for many people, having spoken to many people, certainly for myself. And I've managed to get a lot of opportunities for guests to come on, talk about their areas, how people could overcome self-esteem and confidence issues as well. And through that, I then really started diving a little bit more into the men's mental health space. And that's come kind of really in the last couple of years. And in the last year, I started a specific podcast on that. But right. That's really because lots of guys would open up to me about, I'm struggling with this. And they would come to me and, it's it's being talked about more, but often like guys like hide away their feelings. I know I certainly did. And then also like I found things that are working for me, sharing with these guys. So yeah, I created a second podcast on it, and yeah, it's great to reach people.
So is that what you do for a living? Is that your profession, the podcast?
It's not my main thing. Like the podcast is more of a passion.
Yep.
You can monetize the podcast, sponsorships, affiliates, coaching, as I have done. What I mainly do is a mixture of project management, consultancy, and sales. So those are my two kind of things that I do enjoy and monetize. But actually, the podcast is something I'm like very passionate about.
Right.
And loving learning from people, interviewing like you're doing with me today, and getting to share the message, what their insights as well.
So if you could generalize, like, what is the big chronic epidemic of self-esteem issues for young men? What are you finding is the common thread there?
If I was to say, and again, all of this is just my perception of what I've gone through in people. I used to be at a point of like, what's the right answer? But I don't think there's ever a right answer. But for me, it's a lot around, I think, community and reaching out. And also what I would say I've learned on that is there's sometimes you can, like, even though we're told to talk, that's been going around, like, reach out, men. I think, like, actually sometimes if you reach out to the wrong people, that can actually be more damaging than good. I've certainly found that. And that's not even to say the person you're reaching out to is a bad person. They could be a really beautiful intentioned person, but they don't necessarily have that capacity themselves to emotionally hold space for you. So I think for me, the big challenge is finding community, finding people you can share with. And I feel like when we're isolated, that's the big like epidemic, in my opinion. When we're isolated with our own thoughts, we don't know how to move forward. Like I'm going to America in 2 weeks. I'm going to an event called Awaken with Danny Morale, who it's this big guy I kind of had a dinner with in London, and there's like a huge community there. There's 500 people, and I'm going to feel alive, like around all my people, be able to do all that like deep work. So yeah, I'd say that's a big challenge personally, Richard.
And so isolation, is that, where do you think that comes from? Is that like some kind of carryover from COVID, or is it the work from home trend, or is it just low self-esteem that causes men to isolate and avoid connection?
I would say it's kind of a lot like from conditioning for me. So that could be from different like experiences, whether that's like a young age, whereby like we're told to like hold our emotions, or it could be that like perceptions from society. It's like, you know, don't speak out because that's weak. So there's all those like expectations. Like I know for me, it was like there's a lot of if I speak up, share my feelings, women will feel less attracted to me. That kind of thing. That was one for me, but that's just one example. But yeah, there's a right time and right place. You know, don't scream all your feelings to the rooftops and stuff like that on someone. But like for me, I think there's a lot of like societal expectations and actually things we pick up. Like, we're sharing our feelings when we were younger. A lot of guys I've spoken to sharing our feelings when we were younger, and then it was like rejected, or like maybe you shared it with someone else and then like you weren't heard. You're like, all right, I'm not going to do that. I know personally, just being vulnerable, like when I've been in like short-term sort of dating or relationship or something, when I've like shared and it was like used against me or something like that, that's like really impacted me in the past as well. So I think that's what can keep us in isolation as men, like experiences that have been hurtful, that have gone into our system. And I've done a lot of like work around the nervous system and stuff like that. But then also like what we hear from like society as well.
Right. So one of the things that fascinated me about your work is the through me philosophy. Can you speak to that?
Oh, that's interesting. You brought that up. I love the through me philosophy. That's one of my blogs. There's podcast guest I had, a guy called Peter Sage. I learned that from. He's British. I follow a lot of Americans, the people I follow. I love going to the States as well. I can't wait in 2 weeks. But there's a guy called Peter Sage, and he really demonstrated to me this through David Hawkins wrote a book called The Map of Consciousness, and he's got like this map of consciousness where as human beings we're thought to live either from the bottom, a level of shame, that we feel like shame and life's not good, we feel like a victim. The top level being we feel this like enlightenment, like, and you know, most human beings probably aren't going to get there, but it's like you feel like you're everything. And David Hawkins talked about this whole map of consciousness, and you could be something in the middle, which is like courage, which is pretty good, and you're moving up, and then you could be love. But a lot of the world and a lot of us can be in this kind of like fear, anger, which are better than shame. But anyway, Peter Sage devised this model, making that, there's about 16 levels, but Peter Sage divided this model of these 4 levels that human beings can live in. And we can vary at time to time in our life. The bottom being this to me, that we see everything in life is like a challenge. It's always hard. Always the worst things happen to us. It's like, oh, that happened to me again. Oh, that went wrong. And like, you know, this kind of mentality. And then the next level is this level called by me. And it's like, right, I don't want to be a victim, but I'm going to work hard and fight the world. I'm going to take my power back. That's the classic achiever, classic I've got the personal growth. Definitely been there many times, and I have to catch myself from time to time. But it's like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to fight every situation. But it's like, it can be exhausting. It's like you're fighting all the time, and we're encouraged a lot of this hustle mentality. Then there's through me. And through me is the 3rd level. And that's really about you accept things a lot easier. It doesn't mean you're not going to hurt. Like if you lose someone, you're going to be hurt. You're going to be upset. If you lose a situation, you're going to be hurt. But it's all about understanding like things happen for a reason, and rather than fighting them and then trying to make an outcome, actually going with what the signs you're getting in life and actually feeling more into your energy, what's aligned, for example. So there may be like you're working really, really hard in the career that you don't really want, and you could build up the chain and make a lot of money, perhaps in a corporate job. But actually, but actually, you take some time to reflect. What do I really want? You start like feeling good, and then something comes to you, and it's like, I could make a business on this, and people have told me I've got this skill. I'm going to go that way. That's like a through me way. But through me involves a lot of inner work, but then going with what kind of feels the next right direction. But it's not about meditating all day. That's not what through me is. As Peter says, he says, if you meditate all day, that's not going to pay your bills. That's going to give you an eviction notice. It's like, you know, there is some practicality to it as well. But I try to really do that inner work. Like I do a lot of breath work, a lot of inner work, and then do things that align with me in life.
Yeah. All right. Got it. That's cool. I imagine you've overcome some pretty extraordinary obstacles so far in your life. Tell us about one. What's one that maybe you use this technology to help you move through it? Some big rock you moved.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, I used to be very self-conscious of like what people like thought of me and like certain situations and when I went into new environments and like networking opportunities or new workplaces or new corporate opportunities, or into like in the business world, like doing different things, I'd be very worried what other people thought about me. But actually, the way I've moved like through that, now it doesn't mean that you like care nothing about what anyone says, you know, there's still like an element of that that's always going to be there, I believe. But from the way of like understanding that I'm actually like the creator of my own life in the way that this kind of through me philosophy lives, and seeing things as actually it's all my own perception, and then I can believe what I perceive, and then actually understanding and taking a step back when something happens and you're like, okay, that's the event. What is the meaning I'm putting? So actually, as human beings, we're meaning-making machines, I've realised. So when I've been able to look at a situation, I'm like, okay, that happened. What's the meaning behind it? That's really enabled me to kind of have a higher level of like confidence in life, but also in myself as well, to sort of be able to cope with things. So it's like I had a spell of, you know, not getting a load of jobs as well, for example, and then that allowed me to see myself as someone who was very, very capable as a result of speaking in those job interviews moving forward. So yeah, that's one example I can think of in that way, just becoming more confident in my own skin.
And I noticed a kind of a theme of fun being a really important component of how you get things done. Can you speak to that? Like, what is fun for you, and how do you incorporate it in your productivity?
Yeah, fun's a good one. It's something I'm like living a lot more. Fun's because I've a lot of my life I've been that kind of like achiever, like I've got to get that, and I always remember like being like, when I get that role, when I hit this many downloads to start off with, or when I get X amount of money, and it was always like this like chasing, and then getting to like a goalpost, which is a classic kind of like achiever mentality, very by me mentality. It just like you're never like fulfilled, you're never sort of like happy. And when in the last couple of years, I've really done a lot of work to go like deeper in sort of like breath work, and like sort of feel things that were in my system for years rather than just the mindset. And actually there's a part of me that was like, right, how long is this going to take? What's the sequence and all this kind of thing? And I take it very, very like serious, because I'm quite like a step-by-step kind of guy. But what I realized is you're always going to be in the process of working through things, of always growing, of always learning, of always developing new things. And as a result of that, I just like, someone said, you need to have more fun in like one of my coaching groups when I was learning from. I'm like, yeah. And then when I start adding like more fun to things, whatever I'm doing, it's really, rather than like me getting tired, drained with energy, making my day more fun, it's added more energy. So therefore I've had more productivity as well. One of the key things that I found really helpful is, for fun, is connecting to what's known as the inner child within me. I've learned quite a few bits about the inner child. So anyone listening, it's like the 3, 4, 5-year-old version of yourself. And it's a really good way for building a relationship with yourself. And that child, children like fun. They're running around typically and just having fun, expressing themselves. But as adults, we grow out of that, and, we've got certain standards to live by. So we're not going to be like crying in the middle of the street or the shop and things like that, rolling around with a tantrum. But it's also important to express. And I found with my inner child, it was wanting to do a lot more things. And then I was like, right, we got to do this, Asari, we got to do this, we got to do this. And actually it made me very miserable inside. But it's like having your own, I don't have any children, but having your own child. Imagine if you're like, no, ignoring you, you're not going to have fun, I'm doing some more work. That child would feel terrible, right? They would be like, I feel neglected. But you're doing that to yourself. So when I realized how much fun I wanted inside myself, and started adding that with structure to my life, of course, on things I got to do, that really helped my productivity and my energy as a result.
And how have you used all of this to, the child, the fun part, the childhood part is, really powerful component. But then, when you're out in the real world, you get hit all the time, right? You're getting beat up, you're getting knocked down, you're getting, blindsided by financial things, emotional things, business things, ego things. How do you How do you use this technology to stay cool, clear, and like calm
Yeah.
and productive in the face of all of that?
I love that. Yeah, I love that question. So I look at it in, I take two different approaches. So there's the proactive element, and then there's the responsive. I use the word responsive rather than reactive, in the sense. So I train myself like 3 times a day to like proactively think in a certain way so I can commit. And that just wires me into a certain way of thinking and embed certainty within me. So what I do, I have like this process on my phone. It's like a 5-step process, and I'll do it, schedule it 3 times in a day. The first thing I'll do is just do some breathing, some deep breathing, because that really helps calm the nervous system. So this is the proactive, but I wouldn't do this necessarily when I'm like in a state when I'm like fired up, but it trains my system to be a certain way. So I'll do some breathing, and then what I'll do is I'll commit to all the things that I'm wanting to like remove. So it'll be like, I no longer want to worry about things I can't control. So I remind myself of that. And then it's like, who am I at my best? I remind myself of that. Like I am love. I say, you know, some of the cheesy things, but they work for me. Like I am love, I am abundance, I am wealth, all those kind of things to myself. And then fourthly, I then usually start embedding some kind of beliefs around something I'm working on. So not just myself. So like if I'm in a sales role, I'm like embedding the beliefs about what I'm selling. And then the 5th point is I then like focus on what I want and then think about it with gratitude for what I've got already. So that like I find that anchors me in a natural, like highly good state to default my system into like a calm, but then sort of excited state. Now doing that on repetition, I found allow my system to get back a lot quicker when I'm in those tricky states. Now, when I do get in difficult emotions, whether it's anxiety, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, what I do in those moments is I acknowledge it, and depending where I am, I will go and sit with that emotion and allow the emotion to process. And that's usually a 60 to 90 second process, I found, when I fully allow the emotion to go through. But the more I've done it, the quicker the emotion can go. So that responsive is like, okay, what emotion is coming up right now? Be like, I'm feeling angry. What am I really feeling? Maybe I'm feeling sadness underneath. I allow myself to feel that. And by allowing myself to feel, that actually processes it, and I come back to a much more neutral state as a result.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm curious, Jonny, have you used or taught people to use AI like chat to design affirmations and any of this work? Have you tried that yet?
I've used it. I love AI, and I've used it like in the coaching capacities where it can kind of give you feedback and thoughts like that. I've not like specifically taught people to use it myself. I'm learning a lot about it. But yeah, it's really a useful tool for sort of like, I find like bouncing ideas off, like coaching me. A couple of the communities I've been in have given me my own personalized coach. One thing I always remind myself with AI though is, and I think it's a really important message, is that like it can assist you to kind of like think things through. It can assist you to do things, but it's not your heart. It's not you. So always come back to that and then use it to assist you to like coming back to you. So even if AI, high intelligence, has an opinion on something, and then instinctively within you, you're like, I don't quite feel it, go with what you're feeling, but it can assist you planning out, mapping out.
What's the most profound program you've ever been in? Coaching or experience or retreat or anything stand out that had the biggest impact on your insights?
Oh, I've done a few, but there's probably a few favorite, like 2, maybe 3 favorite ones. Done like plant medicine ones. I've done like healing breathwork. The one I'm going to in a couple of weeks is a good one. I would say there's a couple kind of like stand out for me. would be Peter's program, which is called Elite Mentorship Forum. What he does in that is goes through. Some might perceive it as quite like he's basically a very good entrepreneur. He's a very good businessman. But he's also a self-mastery expert. And that really goes through all like 13 modules of complete like transformation of understanding the science of things work. Like, you know, most of the world we're around, the science shows is made up of like this non-physical stuff. And he goes into all the science of that. And then how actually your energy makes a massive difference of what's coming out. And then he goes through things like handling your emotions. And then he goes through things and like how you design your life and see things. So that's been a really profound program for the way I see things. And then therefore I stop fighting things as much. And I realize how important to get my energy is right for opportunities to come up. But then also acting on things I feel good. So that's been a really profound one. Mm-hmm. The other one is the work I'm doing with like Danny Morell at the moment on like, it's going sort of like deep healing. So he does a lot of like breath work where you dive into the body and you feel stored emotions that haven't had an opportunity to be felt, because the mind consciously can only think of so much, but a lot of our emotions, and I studied as a breathwork facilitator as well, he really goes like deep diving into how he worked through some of these wounds and things that may be holding us back. So yeah, like I've done a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, but I say these things have been even more powerful. Like the Tony stuff is great. Love Tony, his stuff. I used to work for his business partner as well. He's a great guy. And he knows Les Brown as well, I believe was on your show. But Joseph, so I used to work with him. But like, anyway, those guys were great and they really helped me get the mind right. But for me, when I've done like gone deep in the body, it's really, really helped me. And the way Peter's program was presented helped as well. I love it.
Some sonomic stuff. That's good. So let's go back to the podcast. I want the audience to be clear about what is the distinction between your two podcasts, and are they mostly guests or are they mostly you? What are you drilling down on both of those?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for that. So the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset is my big podcast. So very fortunate to hit millions of downloads to this point, and it's mostly dominantly guests at the moment. And that it didn't used to be. I started off just doing solo episodes. That has been running for a few years. I had some great minds on there, like Dr. John DeMartini, Peter, as I mentioned, Joseph McClendon, who's a guy I work with, who knows Les, and some really, really great names on there in general. Shannon Kaiser, Trish Blackwell, yeah. And basically what I do on there, it's all about helping people, as it sounds, self-esteem, confidence, and mindset. Sounds quite a general term now, but it did very well when it sort of like came out. And it's generally for like people who are like achievers, or people who are like very like, inspired, really committed to working themselves, but got those blocks in terms of their self-esteem and their confidence that holds them back. And just different guests sharing their story, people coming from working through adversity or challenging backgrounds, but then some people just an expert in their field, go into like health, business, relationships, and much, much more like niche subjects. Had quite a lot of breathwork experts on there as well. Now, my men's mental health podcast is a little bit different. It's a lot newer. That's very raw. There's no fancy editing. There's no guests at the moment. At the moment, it's more me coming on and being very real, and some of it is me being very in a really like tough place, like, and just being like, okay, this is how I'm feeling and this is how I'm working through. So the men's mental health one is more aimed towards guys, as the title would suggest, but it's all about like me being raw and real and like, okay, I'm working through this and this is what's really helping me.
Yeah, love that. So what are you most excited about developing in yourself next? What's the new frontier?
I'm really excited about the men's mental health podcast, but I'm also writing a men's mental health book at the moment, so that's a really exciting project. It's basically my life story, going into the deep stuff, all the things like I've worked through in my life, for like other guys to read. So I'm really excited about that. I just finished the first draft. I'm looking to get that out this year. Definitely. I've written books before, but this is what I'm very, very excited about writing. So that's the current project.
Awesome. And you mentioned earlier that you do some coaching. Is there anything about that you want to talk about? Is that an actual offer?
Yeah,
Is that something people can pursue?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'm mainly focused with the podcasts at the moment, so it's just like kind of doing them. I do offer the thing I do offer is like people. There's a membership I have for anyone who's aspiring to do a podcast. In terms of that, like because lots of people are. I currently don't do one-on-one at the moment with all the things I've got going on. So there is a membership for like podcast coaching. I've done a bit of that. With the men's coaching, I am doing a little bit of a trial with 3 guys at the moment for doing some coaching with them, which involves breathwork and some of like the psychological stuff as well. So combining like the breathwork sessions with like mind. At the moment, I'm not. I haven't got any like men's coaching spots, but in future, I hope to open that up as well. But yeah, like at the moment, it's mainly the podcast thing that I'm doing. But yeah, it's really, really enjoyable.
And where is the best place for people to catch the podcasts and find you?
Yeah, sure. Like the best place to reach out to me is on my socials. I'm Jonny C. Pardoe on Instagram, on Facebook, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Jonny Pardoe, on TikTok. I must admit, I need to get a bit up to speed with my content on TikTok. So, but yeah, the other two I'm I'm on pretty much all the time. The podcasts you can find, they're pretty easy to find if you go into Apple or Spotify. The Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset. If you type any of those words, actually, it should come up. Apart from mindset, there's quite a few podcasts on mindset. But yeah, just type in the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset, and my podcast will come up. Apple, Spotify, also on Amazon, but I know those are the dominant ones, Spotify and Apple. And yeah, I've also got a YouTube channel as well for those podcasts. So yeah, if you're into men's mental health or want to know more about the self-esteem confidence mindset, got some content for you there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, I think it's the number one communicable disease in the world. The gift that keeps on giving from grandparents to parents, parents to children. Low self-esteem is a chronic problem. So anybody that's doing any talking about that, I love the fact that one of them is just you riffing through your own journey. That's super cool. And I encourage any of you, man or anybody, if you find yourself thinking more about your demons than your inspiration, do what Jonny says, like see if you can find the courage somewhere to connect with somebody. Even if you start by listening to a couple of podcasts, just listen. And then maybe the next step is find a group, find some place where you can connect and share. And we didn't get into it, but I know one of the things that you're passionate about is, talking about the man up culture and how that doesn't necessarily serve all men, because there's a wide variety of what it means to be a man. So really fascinating stuff, Jonny. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. I think you're somebody I'm going to watch, check in on every few years. You're going to create some really powerful stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you, Rich. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining the Richard Brooke podcast. Share this with the men in your life. Send them links to Jonny's podcast. Have them check it out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.